This autumn, I went to visit my friend Chris near Kansas City. He lives in a rural town of about 200 people. We planned to go camping and fishing by a stream on his farm. We would spend several days just being lazy. I live in St. Louis, 250 miles from him. I'm 17 and can drive, but I don't own a car. So I plan to take my backpack, go by bus to Kansas City, and then hitchhike to his town. The Greyhound left St. Louis late in the morning, so I was in Kansas City about 4 o'clock in the evening. It gets dark at 5:30, so I had a good hour and a half to make it to his house 20 miles away. I got lucky and hitched a ride with a man who dropped off his son at the Greyhound station and was heading in my direction. He called me to a crossroads that led to my friend's house, where he dropped me off and wished me well. It was about 2 miles from the corners to the farm. I decided to hoof it since it was a comfortable temperature and I still had daylight. I loaded my backpack onto my shoulders and began walking. After a mile, the sun had set, and autumn's orange and pink glow lit the clouds overhead. The surrounding fields turned golden in the hue of the last light. I placed my pack on the brown grass beside the road. I was going to rest and just enjoy the beauty of the evening sky and drink in the peacefulness of the surrounding farmland. Not a single car had passed me in the last mile. It was magnificent Missouri countryside. As I turned to the west to admire the last light, I saw a scarecrow standing in the golden wheat field. But it wasn't just one scarecrow. It was at least a dozen of them. What was really weird was that they looked so natural and lifelike. The scarecrows captivated me, and I meandered into the wheat and walked closer to get a closer look. The farmer must have used the best store mannequins. They looked like real people propped up. I was so curious I went even closer. They became so human-looking it was unbelievable. It was shocking how the mannequin's skin radiated as if natural in the fading light. I was amazed, but it also gave me goosebumps that rippled down my spine. It was as if a natural person was standing there. I looked at them, and they vacantly stared back at me. What are these scarecrows for? They typically aren't used in Missouri wheat fields, and they were all positioned facing the same way. It was strange how their bodies each tilted at an angle that made them look so creepy. I peered closely at the striking face. Suddenly, one of the scarecrow's eyes flickered to life and leered at me. My mouth gaped open. I stumbled backward. I was unable to stand from the fright and fell on my side. The scarecrow lurched forward, raising a pitchfork into the air that pierced the sky above me. I scrambled on all fours until I could run. The scarecrow, or a man dressed as a scarecrow, was bounding after me in great steps. His pitchfork was a bayonet before him. He grunted as he pursued. Rough. It was a meaningless sound, but terrifying to my ears. I screamed as I desperately tried to escape. Let me go. The scarecrow kept trampling the wheat under his heavy feet, wildly swinging the pitchfork. He kept making that hideous sound, roof. It sounded like an unearthly language. I picked up speed as I hit the road, not glancing back for fear I'd be impaled. I was sure this beast would kill me if he could catch me. As dark descended, all became still, and I stopped running, gasping for breath. There was no sign of the scarecrow in the moonlight. Why was that man standing in a field pretending to be a scarecrow? And who were the others? Were they humans as well? The last thing I remember of that night was that the scarecrow was laughing as I hit the road, as if he was enjoying the sport of chasing me out of the field. I would have thought it an October prank, except he was trying to stab me, and if he could, he would have killed me. I'm sure I almost lost my life. I told him the story when I arrived at my friend's family farm. His father returned up the road in his farm truck and retrieved my backpack. He found evidence with his flashlight in the trampled field of blood in many places where it had pooled on the dry soil. It looked like a murder scene, he said, except there were no bodies. What happened to the scarecrow who chased me in the field? And what about the dozen other scarecrows I saw? Were they the bodies of people he had killed or other murderers in disguise? If I had come 1 foot closer to that scarecrow, would I have been killed and turned into a scarecrow? It was a cold October night, and my friends were attending our school's biggest rivalry football game. They asked me to go along even though I'm not a sports fan. It's fun just to be in the stadium and feel the energy of the clash of the titans on the field. The football game isn't as much entertaining as watching the people for me, They get so enthusiastic about every action on the field, standing on the seats and screaming their lungs out. I'm at the game to be with my friends and for something to do. Our neighborhood is within walking distance of the football stadium, so we walk to the game. I was 17 in my senior year, so winning this rivalry was a big deal, especially for my friends who were nutso for the game and the school team. As we took our seats, they talked about how it might get canceled and what a bummer it would be. The rumor was that some kid had made a threatening post on Facebook saying he would come and wipe out everybody at the game and shoot the place up. He said he had a bomb and didn't care who died. If the word had gotten out to the teachers and the administration before everyone arrived at the stadium, they would have canceled the game. But only students in the stadium saw the post before things went badly. But as the word spread, everyone was talking about it. Then I saw the kid who posted the threat. I recognized him from class. He walked onto the bleachers by himself. He didn't have any gun or package with him that I saw. He was probably seeking attention and wanted to create a story for our big rivalry game night. I wasn't the only one who spied him. I could hear a group of boys, the row ahead of me, conspiring to give the kid a lesson he'll never forget. They were planning to beat him at the first opportunity. I kind of felt sorry for him. He obviously needed attention, and life wasn't treating him well. Now he is going to pay more in retribution from other students. However, at the same time, the kid deserves what he gets. He shouldn't be able to just walk away without consequences. Anyway, the students backed him into the restroom under the stadium while all the school was focused on the game and gave him a swirly. I heard that the swirly was in an unflushed toilet for good measure. As you can imagine, the kid didn't take it very well, and during halftime he slipped a pocket knife into one of the boys in that group who swirled him. The kid he knifed wasn't one of the guys who actually did the flushing. It was an innocent student who happened to be there. That poor kid didn't deserve to get stabbed. He was taken away in an ambulance, and the police arrested Eddie, that was his name, and booked him downtown. He had somehow snuck the pocket knife into the stadium, and security at the gate knew nothing about the threat. I heard later that Eddie was expelled from school and was being held at juvenile hall pending a psych evaluation. I live in Indianapolis, a friendly Midwestern city. You have the advantage of having a town with all of its activities, restaurants, and healthcare facilities and having a country flavor just outside your doorstep when desired. Indianapolis is surrounded by farmland, mostly corn and some soybean. While I grew up in the city, my dad and his brother grew up on the family farm. When my grandparents passed, my uncle took over the farm and lived there until he died. He had a tough life and remained a bachelor, dying alone even without the support of the family at age 48. He was injured in a military training exercise and lost a leg and his military career. Sure, he got benefits, but his pain never gave him a moment's rest. For this reason, it is conjectured as to why he drank so heavily. When he was drunk, he wasn't a nice man. It was difficult for him to farm, but he did haphazardly. He was a pretty severe alcoholic. He was known for his anger and would often spend the night in jail for fighting and brawling at the one bar in the town where our family farm was located. He was arrested on suspicion of killing the neighbor over a dispute about the property line. But a body never turned up after a thorough search of his property. The neighbor's wife suspected her husband had run off with a younger woman he had been seeing on the side, but that could never be verified. Without solid proof that the neighbor was dead, the police released my uncle. Most everyone in the community suspected my uncle of killing his neighbor and somehow disposed of the body where the police could not find it. My family believed the same. He was capable of this evil deed. My family, including my father, cut him out of their lives even without the evidence or a criminal charge brought by the county prosecutor. They all knew he was guilty and was getting away with murder. I didn't know what to think. I remained in touch with him until his death and occasionally visited the farm. I never inquired about the neighbor or about his theories about his disappearance. I knew my uncle was a drunk, but I just couldn't believe he was so evil and cruel to savagely attack and kill. He died falling down the stairs, dead drunk. I guess that is where they get that saying. My family went to the farm after the funeral to dispose of all the rubbish inside and out of the house and prepare for the estate sale. The property was littered with broken machinery and all manner of debris. Wherever it broke down or he happened to drop, it remained accumulating over the years. I took the tractor with the trailer attached to the far field with the plan to pick up whatever scrap was left around the property. Old tires, broken shovels, a bicycle frame, a rusted chainsaw, and more tools were abandoned. In the furthest field from the barn was a scarecrow. It was weathered and beaten by the sun, wind, and rain. It hung limply, waving in the breeze. I remember seeing it for a decade scaring off crows, but I had never been up close. My uncle was really clever in how he fashioned the scarecrow. It was your typical burlap potato sack tied around the head with a necktie. It had a wide-brimmed straw hat with aluminum strips hanging down that reflected the sun and shivered in the breeze. There was a crudely fashioned mask with white painted eyes and a round black mouth. It was clothed in an overcoat, farm overalls, and a blue denim shirt. 2 rusted axes hung upside down and out of the pant legs, mocking legs with feet. He crafted the arms from a metal rake cut in half, with the tangs mimicking fingers protruding from the shirt sleeves. It's spooky, like Eddie Scissorhands. Standing in the trailer, I attempted to unwind the barbed wire holding the scarecrow to the post. It stunk of mold and probably dead mice. But the wire was too rusted and sharp for me to undo, so I used the tractor to pull the whole scarecrow out of the ground post. I hefted it onto the trailer, grabbing it around the chest. It was heavy, and I could see that my uncle had used chicken wire to create the body and stuffed it with rubbish as it clattered when I threw it on the trailer. He was obviously grotesquely creative in designing his scarecrow. Back at the barn, I tossed the scarecrow and other burnable into the fire pit. The sky had opened up and it was raining, so we locked up the house and drove home for the night. The following day, we returned to continue preparing for the estate sale. So much work was still to be done. I gathered more rotted wood boards and took them to the burn pit. When I arrived, the scarecrow wasn't in the hole where I had thrown it the night before. There were scrape marks where someone had dragged it out of the pile. I followed the groves in the mud halfway back in the field from which the scarecrow originally stood. There were no footprints in the mud from anyone having dragged the scarecrow, and it was heavy. It didn't make any sense at all. Even the tractor had difficulty in the mud. Why would anyone want to steal the rotted scarecrow, then leave it face down in the mud with its metal hands scratching the earth as if trying to drag itself back to where it came from? Did some trespasser try to steal it, get tired, and abandon it in the field? Seemed crazy to me. I loaded it back into the trailer and returned it to the burn pile. The pit was still soaked from the rain overnight, so I dumped the scarecrow on the pile and returned to work. At dusk, I went inside and helped with the cleaning. We had a pizza delivered and the last beer in the fridge. At 10, we locked up and headed out. For some crazy reason, I had to go check the burn pile. So I grabbed my flashlight and went to the barn. I was shocked. The scarecrow was missing. I was frozen, sweeping the flashlight beam around the area. Then I noticed it. It was face down with its rake hands stretched out in front of the body, about 12 feet from the pit. Someone was playing a prank on me, but who? Had someone else been on the farm today that we did not notice? I dragged the scarecrow back to the pile to quickly escape. I was getting spooked thinking someone else was watching me. The following day, my dad and I planned to have a bonfire burning off all the scrap collected around the farm and the scarecrow. When I arrived, my dad had a blaze 12 feet high. I asked him about the scarecrow because I didn't see it in the flames. He said he never saw a scarecrow. He had no idea what I was talking about. I jumped up on the tractor and raced back into the field. The dead center was the scarecrow. Again, posed as if it had crawled there by himself. Someone was really playing a game on me. I loaded the scarecrow into the trailer for a third time and took it to the roaring fire. I yanked the rake hands off and threw them aside. Dad then helped me toss the scarecrow corpse into the fire. As it burned, we went back inside to make dinner and finish with the decluttering of the house. As I worked, I heard a scratching noise against the house. I figured it had to be an animal. I made a mental note to call an exterminator before the realtor listed the home. Dad and I slept in the house overnight to be up early to load the U-Haul to take furniture to Habitat for Humanity as a donation. At sunrise, I went to check on the fire from the night before, and as I walked behind the house heading to the barn, I saw a trail of black ash. It went in a straight line from the fire pit to the house. I discovered the skeletal remains of a human. It was in the area that I heard the scratching the night before. On closer inspection, I could see that the skull was caved in from an axe blow. Dad and I concluded that his brother had killed his neighbor and woven him into a scarecrow, where he hid the body in plain sight for years, flapping in the field. We debated whether we should call the police. Our decision was to let sleeping dogs lie. My father's brother was dead and buried. We should do the same with his legacy. We took the remains of the burned scarecrow with the skeleton encased and placed it back in the burn pit. I took the tractor and pushed dirt over, burying the evidence so long sought. The mystery of who was dragging the scarecrow to the farm remains unanswered. Was it a prankster or a ghost? My uncle trying to keep his hideous crime hidden, or the dead neighbor trying to bring justice to his soul? The answer I will never know.
Subscribe.